It looks like Syria has entered a new chapter, with rebels taking Damascus and opposition leader Hadi al-Barra stepping up to guide an 18-month transition. Big promises are on the table: new constitution, free elections, and keeping the country's institutions intact. On paper, it sounds like they're finally steering away from the chaos of the last 14 years. But history teaches us that promises in these situations can quickly turn into just that: empty words. One curious twist is the role of Assad's prime minister, Mohammad Ghazi al-Jalali. Here's a guy who stayed put while his boss fled the scene. Now he's offering his services to the transitional government. Al-Barra paints it as a noble risk on al-Jalali's part, but come on, does anyone really believe this wasn't a calculated, opportunistic move? What if this man's clearly playing the long game to keep himself relevant? Al-Barra also spoke about exiles finally being able to return. It's a heartwarming idea, but let's not kid ourselves. It's going to be messy. Some people have spent years building new lives abroad. Others might not see much worth coming back to in a country devastated by war. Encourage them to return? That's not going to so easy. The rebels pulling off a world record by taking Damascus so quickly is impressive. But running a country is a whole other game. They've got a shot at steering Syria in the right direction, but whether they manage to do that or just reshuffle the deck remains to be seen. Either way, buckle up, because this transitional period is going to be one hell of a ride. Wow, that was quick. Great Britain, following Germany and Austria in pausing Syrian asylum applications under the guise of assessing the current situation. Translation: they've found the perfect excuse to stop and figure out just how many people they can start sending back, or at least keep in limbo a little while longer. Bashar al-Assad's departure may be sudden, but the bureaucratic opportunism? Practically instant. This move is politically brilliant. Assad's escape provides a ready-made argument. If the dictator is gone, are you really still in danger? The timing couldn't be better for politicians hoping to appease voters who are increasingly fatigued with migration and asylum issues. The public mood in Europe is clear, and the numbers don't lie. Migration is up, and patience is down. By freezing asylum decisions, the UK government is essentially playing to the gallery, signaling that they're taking a tougher stance. Nobody on the streets of Vienna or Birmingham is likely to shed tears over this policy shift. In fact, many will cheer it as overdue action. The stark reality is that Syria hasn't magically become safe overnight. Yet the rationale for these moves is understandable from a political perspective. European leaders are fully aware that their electorates are increasingly skeptical of immigration. With Assad out of the picture, they have a quite legitimate reason to adjust their policies. For Syrians in Europe, the message is clear. The game has changed, and you might not be welcome much longer. Deportations aren't explicitly on the table yet, but the pause in asylum decisions signals where things might be heading. The question is, what about other migrants? Is this the beginning of an era with a different migration policy than the last decade? The Kremlin remains as consistent as ever, insisting the Ukraine war will only end when Vladimir Putin's lofty objectives are achieved, by negotiation or, let's be honest, more bloodshed. Dmitry Peskov repeated the usual script, declaring that the so-called special military operation will wrap up when the president's demands are met. Translation: when pigs fly or Kiev raises a white flag, whichever comes first. Putin's wish list, in case anyone has forgotten, includes Ukraine abandoning its NATO ambitions and handing over 4 occupied regions as a gift-wrapped prize. And let's take a moment to appreciate the ongoing charade of calling this conflict a special military operation. We're almost 3 years into a full-scale war that has involved tanks, missiles, and cities reduced to rubble, and they still refuse to call it a war. It's like watching someone set your house on fire and then insist they're just conducting a controlled burn. The mental gymnastics required to maintain this euphemism would be impressive if it weren't so absurd. Russia is tinkering with its digital chokehold in a move that screams, "What if North Korea, but bigger?" According to reports, Moscow cut off parts of its population from the global internet for a day, effectively turning regions like Dagestan, Chechnya, and Ingushetia into a tech version of solitary confinement. No Google, no YouTube, no WhatsApp. Even VPNs were apparently blocked. That's right, even the lifeline of how to unblock everything, tutorials on YouTube, wasn't an option. This isn't just an accidental trip over a digital cable. Nope, Russia is testing its very own sovereign internet, a cozy little bubble where the government holds all the keys. They've been pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into this project since at least 2019. And what's the goal? Simple. A hermetically sealed online ecosystem where inconvenient truths, foreign ideas, and memes about Putin riding bears won't sneak through. Roskomnadzor, the country's internet overlord, has already been making sites like YouTube and Telegram unusable through speed throttling. Future plans apparently include cutting off access to foreign web hosts and forcing businesses and citizens to use Russian-owned platforms. Because nothing says progress like pushing everyone onto government-approved tech. What's the endgame? Graciously raising a generation of citizens who don't know what they're missing. After all, the best way to keep people docile is to cut off their curiosity at the source. No foreign news, no alternative perspectives, just state-approved content 24/7. What's out there on the wild, unfiltered internet that's so dangerous it requires building a $648 million firewall? Is it just fear of dissent? Whatever the reason, one thing's for sure: ignorance might be bliss for the state, but for the average Russian, it's shaping up to be a dull and highly monitored existence. Big day for Bulgaria and Romania. Starting January 1st, 2025, they'll finally join the Schengen area, where borders are as symbolic as the EU part of Eurovision. After years, the two countries are officially dropping border controls with the rest of Europe, making it easier for citizens to travel and trade. Interesting that it's happening in an era where Europe's mood leans more towards tightening borders than opening them for safety reasons. It's worth noting that the Schengen area and the EU are not the same thing, even if people often confuse them. Bulgaria and Romania have been in the EU since 2007. Membership in one doesn't automatically mean inclusion in the other.